Hola, amigos. Dan, you're in Seattle. I'm behind a mask here.
Yeah, you are still practicing the mask etiquette, which is good to see.
Dancing
You don't have to,
bears.
you don't have to do it on this Zoom call, but
See
everybody should
those?
be wearing a mask in public. We still have COVID-19 out there, so be
They're
careful.
cool, man.
Yeah, I like it.
So much style in the masks these days. We're getting good at this.
Yeah, I think it's the new fashion statement.
Unfortunately, it's
Unfortunately.
it's one of the new fashion statements. So, welcome, friends and colleagues, back to Ad Chatter from Ad Pulp. I'm David Burn in Austin, Texas. We've got Dan Goldgeier in Seattle. We took last week off. Last week is a tough week. This week's a tough week. We're in tough week time, Dan.
It is. There's a lot going on. No matter who you are, no matter where you are in the world, personally, professionally, societally, it's a lot to deal with. And we took a good needed break and pay attention to other matters other than the ad business last week, which was, I think, good.
Yes, and now that we're back paying attention to the ad business, one of the things that cannot be avoided is this new Forrester report that's basically saying 50,000 jobs may be lost this year and next year in the agency business. That's a significant amount of out of work people, Dan, and we already have people who are out of work. So sounds like a crisis, but I'm not hearing many people, waving their hands about this. Why is that?
Well, I think there are people waving their hands, or there were at least until the events of last week, and some more serious issues came to the fore. You know, I read a statistic, and this was a few weeks ago, is that after the downturn in 1999 and 2000, there was a recession and the dot bomb era. It took 18 years for the advertising industry to regain the amount of jobs it had lost then. So I think there's going to be a bit of a hard reset here in terms of jobs that may never be coming back to the ad agency business. They may be going in-house, they may be going into other firms, it may be more of a permanent gig economy. But the other issue that I've been thinking about this week is the fact that you have thousands and thousands of people out of work, and they are all, to be honest, they're all, just like the makeup of the ad industry, is a lot of white people out of work, and they're going to want to scramble to get back in while we have a new initiative or an ongoing initiative to hire more Black folks and people of color in the advertising business. And so you're going to see a lot of the people who are looking for jobs use any means to get back into the business, while you've got a flood of talent that wants to be elevated in the business. So right now, I don't know that anybody knows where it's going to go, but once hiring starts picking up, there's going to be a massive load of people wanting to actively get back in, and it's going to create a lot of hiring tension, among other things.
Let's talk about whatever your gender or race or age may be, how to get back in, because I think there is an opportunity opening up right here for people with, let's call it, multiple skills, the ability to juggle. The thing that I find interesting and perhaps alarming is that, as you mentioned, the industry already shrank and people are already overtaxed in their jobs. So now we're going to tax them even more.
It's going to be a tension like we've never seen, because what happens when an agency finally does decide to hire? Who are they going to look for? Are they going to look for the same people that they had? No, they're not going to look for the same people that they had. Are they going to look for new skills? Are they going to look for new diversity? I would hope that I would hope they do. I would hope they really do. But that leaves a lot of other people out in the cold, and that's not going to go over well. All I'm saying is that this business has always had a very odd way of attracting talent and odd ways of recruiting talent. And it's only going to come exacerbated now. And I could go on for this discussion for about it, for a long time. But I think, given the events of recent, you're going to see a push for hiring a lot of folks new to the business or underrepresented in the business, and it's going to cause a massive shift, just a complete shift in the business, and nobody knows where it's going to go. And
well, in order to mirror society and clients,
absolutely,
we have to look like, be like, feel like, understand the other side of that. So it's all in balance now, and we need to balance it.
Absolutely we do, and that's, I guess, the point I'm inarticulately making,
No,
is that it's going to leave it's going to leave a lot of people behind, no matter what happens, because the economics of it just don't work right now.
yeah, and what I'm trying to say in addition is the people that are going to be left behind are people who have lived in one lane.
Sure.
Now you're a copywriter who also shoots and edits video. You know what I mean? So you have the ability to do more than one thing, and maybe you do one thing at a time, but having the ability to do more than one thing, I think, is really critical. And that's not the old school way of coming at the ad business. The old school way is, I'm an expert in writing copy. I'm an expert in design, graphic design. I'm an expert in art direction or media buying or whatever it is. We need people now. I believe that's what the opportunity is going to offer with this massive shrinking down. People with more skills. That also means people with more experience, in my view. So we'll see how that plays out. Let's share the screen and look at some things and talk about where we're at this week. The COVID-19 crisis is still raging, along with the Black Lives Matter crisis. So we're going to talk about that for a second, but let me share screen. This is Goodby Silverstein's office in downtown San Francisco on California Street, really, really hilly street. And there's their message to the world outside of their building. Now, I've been inside that building, and I remember, this was 20 years ago, I remember seeing Black people with big afros and stuff, and I was like, right on, San Francisco. But I want to show this because, I love Goodby, I love what they're doing, but forget Goodby for a second. I couldn't help going to this phrase, window dressing. So Dan, take it from there.
Well, it's a sentiment that we all would agree with. I don't know that there's any deeper message here. They're doing what they can. I had an African-American art director partner who went to Goodby a couple years after I worked with them. So I know that they do have a reputation for supporting diversity in their creativity, and they have a long output of it.
For sure. I'm asking the bigger question about the industry now, and that's why I went to window dressing, because lots of talk, lots of black squares and rectangles. How much action can we expect?
Yeah, I think there'll be, per our earlier discussion, I think there'll be some incremental action taken across the board. Whether that results in a long-term shift of this business, I could not answer that for you. Again, it goes back to the entire hiring process. You and I have both applied to many, many jobs in the agency business in our lifetime. And it is not a meritocracy. The best book doesn't always get the job. The most qualified people don't always get there. It's who you know, it's your network, it's your friend referrals, and that leaves a lot of people out in the cold. And those hiring practices are going to actively have to change for anything to happen in this industry on a massive scale.
What gets me about that is that the same people are preaching the work. But what you just said is so true. They can say that until they're blue in the freaking face, Dan. It's clearly not about the work. It's about Do you make me feel good about myself? And a million other factors, while the work is more window dressing. It's time for this industry to get real. And that's what I want to talk about. And that's why we're looking at this stuff, and all industries, by the way, and including politics, Dan, which leads us to our next topic. I want to look at this commercial from the Lincoln Project with you and get you to respond. Let's look.
Meet Brad Parscale. From dead broke to the man Trump can't win without. Brad is getting rich. How rich? Really rich. But don't tell Donald. He'd wonder how Brad can afford so much. A $2.4 million waterfront house in Fort Lauderdale. 2 Florida condos worth almost $1 million each. He even has his very own yacht. A gorgeous Ferrari. A sleek Range Rover. Brad brags about using private jets. Oh my, Brad's a star. And why not? Brad's worth every dollar. Just ask him.
Dan, who's this commercial for?
It's for Trump to get under his skin. The Lincoln Project, of course, is not affiliated with Democrats. It is a bunch of the quote unquote never Trumpers, some GOP strategists and other people who really think we're at a crossroads in this country, that we can't have 4 more years of this president, never mind. And it has nothing to do with the issues that the Democratic Party usually traffics in, whether it's healthcare, climate change. This is all about, we face a drastic choice. And this one again goes to the fact that there's a lot of money being raised for these presidential elections, and these strategists, whether on both sides of the aisle, skim a lot off the top and of those donations. And so this kind of reprojects that and says, okay, the guy leading the Trump campaign is making a lot of money when they're supposed to be putting that money towards organization work or airtime or whatever it is. And so it's both a jab at the donor class and the people who are or the working class who support the president, but also directly at the president himself to drive him a little nuts. And
you don't typically see the campaign manager as the target of a hit. And that's what we have here. We have Brad, Mr. Facebook user, Mr. Smart Guy for Don, and the hit is on him and is clearly directed towards the president because he doesn't like anybody getting any attention other than himself. And the point here really is, I wish that Democrats would really look at the Lincoln Project, all of their ads, and study it and say, what can we learn? Because Republicans know how to hit. That's what this is. And Democrats don't. And that's a problem. So anyway, hats off to the Lincoln Project. They have many other excellent, hard-hitting, and funny ads. Go to YouTube and check out their work.
And timely, because they are quick.
Oh, yes.
They are putting up things within a matter of a couple of days after an event that may have happened, and they pound it.
Yes. The Brad ad's not the new ad. I just love it, so I wanted to show it. It's a great example of, let's get under the skin, as you said. Let's hit the president and his top people where it hurts. So that's proper at this time. Now let's end the chatter today on something a little more positive. This is a public service announcement for the United Way of New York.
I happen to like New York. I happen to like the city, and I like to do better. The more I know New York, the more I feel it. I happen to like New York. I happen to love New York.
So I like this because, you know, frankly, we're drowning in negative images from the media, and this balances that out and
Yep.
shows us that while there may be a lot of negative things happening, what we're not seeing in the news is all the positive things that go on day to day, hour to hour, minute to minute. So hats off to the United Way New York for reminding us of that.
Yep. It reminds me, back after 9/11, a lot of filmmakers did these little short films celebrating New York. I think Scorsese did one, and Woody Allen did one, and or they were featured in these little commercials celebrating the New York spirit. And this one reminds me of that. I mean, there's no city like it in the world, and you know, when you can celebrate New York, it's always a fun montage of imagery, for sure.
Yes, because it reminds us of how many characters inhabit that city. You know, the man on his balcony with the horn and so many others. It's just a really positive piece to put out into the world. So that's the kind of PSA we need to be seeing more of, not necessarily that technique over and over. But the idea behind it, which is to uplift instead of down press. We've kind of had enough down pressing for a while, in my view.
Mm-hmm.
Any final thoughts, Dan, on today's chatter?
Well, the world is so fluid right now and fast moving. We have no idea what's going to come around the corner. But I hope everybody is hanging in there and doing what they can to keep themselves healthy and their friends healthy, and make our society better. You know, advertising can play a role in that, and you know, but people need to keep their eyes on the ball.
I'm really glad you said that. You know, advertising is not exactly thought of as one of the great industries in the world, but what is it that we're supposed to do with our talents and for our clients? We're supposed to help communicate valuable messages. Right now, there are many messages that need to be communicated, and we're here to help. So great end note on that, Dan. For everyone listening and watching, thank you so much for your time and attention. And we'll see you over at adpulp.com. And Dan, we'll talk to you next week. Thank you.
All right, thanks, David. Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.